Hello, everyone. Welcome to Module 4. I hope this finds you well in this strange time that we are in. This is released a day before, actually the day of that your recording is due. So I would urge you, if you haven't done so already, to get that recording submitted, along with all the other things that go along with it. That said, we're going to talk about one of my favorite techniques in counseling. Let me go ahead and share the screen and we'll get started. Here's where we are on our syllabus. 9-7 would be good if I started to highlight the right number. Mindfulness approaches. So I doubt that you had a chance, maybe you did jump ahead, but I doubt that you had a chance to integrate this into your video. However, I would strongly urge you to practice one of these at some point during the semester, if not numerous times, if not trying to rehearse it by yourself. The reason being that mindfulness has really become a staple of modern counseling. Mindfulness has its roots in Eastern religion, and I make no different types of claims to the otherwise. I think that you look at practices such as yoga, which yoga in its initial form, really you could argue that it was just breathing and not what we do in Western, circles, which is to do all these postures. And you can also argue that Buddhism is really rooted in the practice of mindfulness and meditation. So let's go ahead and look at our materials for this week. You'll see that I uploaded quite a few. I uploaded quite a few things because I've accumulated quite a few things over my career that pertain to these. One of the bigger trainings that I attended and also was supervised in was TFCBT. And there is a big section in mindfulness in TFCBT. Those of you that have heard me talk about this technique before, it is it's a hard practice to actually go through and engage with a teen or a child that has been through trauma, because it feels like at many times you're doing harm, because you're having them recall very painful memories and traumatic memories. And really, one of the ways that we help them deal and cope is showing them deep breathing, mindfulness, progressive muscle relaxation, different grounding techniques to take them away from where they are in that frightened moment and that frightening memory, re-experiencing all the physiological things that were happening. And we take them back to a place at the present moment where things are safe, where things are calm, where they don't have to worry about their existential well-being. They are safe here in the here and now. And so that's really what these techniques are. It's helping people being present in the present moment and bringing them back. Although there are nuances with each one of them, let's take a look at these. And you're welcome to read through my outline and lecture. I'm not going to belabor the point too much. I believe the first one in your textbook is it could be deep breathing. Now I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but because I don't remember. Hold on, let me find it. I don't have it in front of me, but that's okay. We'll keep going. These are the resources, and I'm going to have to pull up the lecture. That's just what I'm going to have to do. I was going to go by memory, but it's not that good anymore these days. Okay. So the first one, I knew I wasn't doing it right. Okay. So the first one is visual and guided imagery. This has not been one that I've necessarily done a lot. I have seen people become very, very effective. Even students become very effective at guiding people using visualizations. So this is something that you could think of as being like, okay, close your eyes, relax, get comfortable in your chair, find a comfortable seated position, allow your body to kind of sink in, take a deep breath in through your nose, fill your lungs, and let it go out through your mouth. Now take a couple more deep cleansing breaths, really filling your lungs. And then fully exhaling. And imagine yourself sitting on a quiet, secluded, sunny beach. The sun is shining. You feel it warming your skin. You feel your toes and your hands in the warm sand as you lie back and sit and relax. So it's something like that. I was losing it at the end, obviously, as you could hear, but it's just taking somebody into a calming scene. Sometimes you can work with your client to figure out what they enjoy, what's something very relaxing to them. You could even have them help you co-create the image by having them write down what's relaxing about their safe place, and then try to take them there. There's a little bit of risk in that. I usually just use a beach or maybe a mountain scene, or just somewhere that's safe where people typically don't think of, the stresses of this world. And that can be really a good thing. If you have a very gifted client that can read, I would suggest maybe even giving them a few reading materials to help them kind of take themselves, with a good imagination into a very safe place. Typically, I use these when people come in with a lot of anxiety. I don't practice this a lot, but it can be helpful, can be useful. What I have used extensively is deep breathing, and that's in chapter 15 of your textbook. And I strongly encourage each one of you to develop a deep breathing routine that you can rely on with clients, something that you can become comfortable with, and something that you can help lead people into a relaxed state. One thing about deep breathing is it's well researched. It's used in many different arenas, many different circles, used in the military for snipers to calm down before they actually shoot somebody. That's not the most pleasant image to kind of take you into that. But I say that because a lot of people may be turned off by the prospect of, maybe even meditation or breathing because of their religious upbringing. And so, it's always just good to frame this in a way that your client is going to be able to accept, because this is an evidence-based thing, and you've got the science that show that people's blood pressure decreases. You've seen the science that thoughts, the racing thoughts decrease through fMRI technology. We can measure somebody's respiration and their heartbeat that's connected to that respiration, and the heartbeat actually slows. And so you do calm using deep breathing. It's extremely effective, especially the more that one practices. This isn't necessarily the first or second time that a person picks this up going to be the best, but as the longer a person practices, the more effective that the relaxation becomes in helping them to assuage their anxiety. So take a look at that. There's many ways to skin a cat, so to speak, in this with deep breathing. I've heard people like count to 4, hold it, now exhale. I really don't encourage my own practice. That's probably my own preference, not to hold it, but some people breathe in for the count of 3 or count of 4, hold it for 3, exhale for 7. 4, 3, 7. I've heard that used. Sometimes I'll just count, to 4 each time very slowly. The main thing here is that the person fills their lungs to capacity very slowly, and then fully exhales very slowly. And if it can be done over the process of at least 4 to 5 minutes, it's going to seem like a long time when you're in session if you're doing this because it's kind of silent because you're not talking very much. But the longer that you can go, the more effective. Usually takes about 5 minutes to get somebody in a calmer state. Progressive muscle relaxation. And so, if I'm working with a teen, I might say, what does a professional athlete do before they shoot a free throw? Watch them. I take a deep breath so they can focus. What does a field goal kicker do before they, I use whatever method of entry you could find to quote unquote sell this, because this does work. It's not something it's frivolous. It does have a lot of scientific merit. PMR, or progressive muscle relaxation. And basically, you guys have been in the classes where I do the lemon squeezers. Imagine there's somebody, cut a lemon in half and take a deep breath, let it out through your mouth. Now somebody put a half a lemon in each one of your palms. When I count to 3, I want you to start squeezing that lemon as hard as you can. 1, 2, 3. Now squeeze. Get all the lemon juice out. All right, it's running down your arms. It's dripping on the floor. Come on, get it all out of there like you're making lemonade. You don't want to leave any juice in that lemon. Okay, drop them. Drop the lemon. Now shake your hands out. Drop that lemon on the floor. Completely relax. Relax your arms. Relax your hands. And so you do that a few times, and it helps teach people the difference between, their muscles being really tense and tight and relaxed. And so you actually go through a true PMR practice. You'd go through the body, like start at the toes, have them scrunched and relaxed, and your calves and your quads, your abs, your pectoral muscles, your arms, your facial muscles. You'll go through the whole body as a true PMR relaxation technique. This is hard for people to do if they're in a public setting because they start to look silly. So if I'm working with kids in a school-based setting, I might not give them PMR, at least in school, but they think it's fun in session. So I've used the lemon squeezers a lot with kids that have, maybe discussed something really, really traumatic or quite disturbing, and that brings them back to the moment where they can kind of continue their day without being in a really hypervigilant state. Mindfulness meditation. I provide a lot of info, and I do have things that I've shared. So you're welcome to delve into all the resources that I provided. I have a lot more, but it's just like I tried to pick out the nuts and bolts of what's going to be really important to you when you're practicing, when you're starting. And this was one of those with the mindfulness meditation. You can do this a lot of different ways too. I've had people count their breath, just to be mindful of every exhale. You silently think in your head, 1, 2, and you go on like that. The goal in that is to get to 100 without having all these intrusive thoughts get in your way. It's a way of disciplining your mind. It's a Zen Buddhist technique, but it's a way of bringing your mind to the present, to that counting, to where your breath is, and letting everything else go. And the trick is, people get really frustrated with this. The trick is, and the real benefit to your brain is, when you mess up, training it to come back to that focus and starting over. Because if you mess up and you lose count where you're at, you have to start over at 1. But that's where the healing takes place in the brain, where the new synapses start to form, because you start to become more than your anxiety, more than this mass of fleeting thoughts. In Buddhism, they call it this monkey mind, where your thoughts are just jumping everywhere. You don't necessarily have these flight of ideas. You start to control that flight of ideas by counting your breaths and focusing on that. So really slowly, and deeply, just like I did. And the process of coming back to that focus, that's the healing portion of it. So that helps people kind of assuage that frustration. I got to 10, I forgot, I didn't know where I was. I'd always start over. Make and then that's homework. When your head hits the pillow, start that deep breathing exercise. Or maybe when you're just, very few people have moments to themselves at home, but if you have a moment by yourself outside of that pillow time, practice counting your breath. I've used that, or I've seen that used with people that have even bipolar disorder, trying to control those manic racing thoughts. Uh, Read my resources here from Thich Nhat Hanh. That, I used counting as one way. I really like what Nhat Hanh has written about mindfulness meditation, and really in a lot of even national circles that I've come across, his name comes up as far as where people kind of go to as a source, a foundational source of how to practice mindfulness. And one of my teachers, when I was in seminary, actually, Christian seminary, had spent a month at his monastery in Plum Village in France, and spent a month just practicing meditation. And I went on a retreat where she led the retreat and really focused on a lot of the mindfulness practices. And it was pretty amazing. I was experiencing a lot of stress during those times, and probably the most stress I've felt in my professional career, in that a colleague had committed a lot of fraud, and I was trying to deal with many, many different aspects of that. And this kind of carried me through. And when I get to different difficult places, I'll come back to this, and it does help. So the one thing that I would kind of say is maybe a reservation if somebody has asthma or horrible allergies, or maybe even if we're in a situation like COVID, maybe, where people have trouble breathing, that may induce more anxiety. But other than that, this incorporates a lot of the things that we've already mentioned there. I mentioned yoga. It's not in your text, although certainly it would be a mindfulness practice, because you are controlling your breath, you're controlling your movements, and you're staying focused in the present moment. They actually recommend yoga in TFCBT. They've actually got a few in their advanced training. They have a few resources that draw upon yoga even for kids. And it's being embraced a lot more in the past 10 years by the medical community. My last insurance thing that I filled out, it says, do you regularly engage in aerobic activity or stretching exercises? And so I was able to, every once in a while I'll engage into some stretching exercises. I don't get to do it as much as I like, but it's definitely a positive coping skill. If folks can kind of get past, okay, well, it's from Hindu religion, so if folks can kind of get past that and know that you don't have to become Hindu to practice yoga, it is what it is. So I provided a story there in one of the things that kind of touches me when I think about yoga. I don't really practice it in session. I maybe draw upon some of the same phrasing when I do relaxation that I've heard from different yoga instructors, but I don't really, I can't, because I'm not a yoga instructor, but I've referred a lot of clients to try yoga and provided online resources. And if you're interested, I can provide some valid, resources for online yoga. I don't want to go to a class. It's just not me. And be around people. I'm more of an introvert when it comes to something like that. Not saying that you're not if you're in public, but I prefer to practice by myself. But I did have a client change his life around by me kind of giving a couple of resources. I didn't do much of it. I felt like, he really attributed a lot to me, and I felt like that person did a lot of work. And that's usually what happens when you see people improve. They've done a lot of work. You're welcome to go through the strengths and weaknesses here. Again, I think the biggest weakness is folks that maybe have a fundamentalist Christian upbringing and are skeptical. You'll want to just be careful in how you frame it. Again, these are well-researched now, becoming more well-researched and widely accepted. I don't have a discussion that you have to do. It's an optional discussion. It's not for a grade, but if you want to jump in after this week, what mindfulness techniques are you attracted to? How might you integrate these in your future sessions with your future clients? That's all I've got. So if you have any questions, always reach out via email. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll be seeing you soon.